Welcome, one and all, to Stone Soup Poetry, the online open mic. We have 2 weeks of features coming up for you to end off January and start off February. We do have Margaret Young featuring next week. She has two releases coming out, one from Main Street Rag Press, and the other is coming from, and the other feature is going to be Jamelia Van Dyke Bailey, whose book has been released through Finishing Line Presses and available for purchase. I'll be putting links to that sometime between today and tomorrow. And those are just two of the features coming up for the rest of February. I just got a weird message. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. It's telling me my speaker switched on me, but I'm not sure why, because my mic and everything has been what it is for like the last 20 minutes. But anyway, looking to see what we have from. Oh, I see what's going on. And with that, anyone who wants to participate in the open mic from the Facebook group post for this reading is all set. Remediator 5000 doesn't want to fuck around anymore. Let's get to the open mic tonight. It's been a bit of a wait. I do apologize for the technical difficulties. Let's welcome up first, past Stone Soup feature for 2024. I think the first Stone Soup feature for 2024. Yes, Mr. Robert Fleming.
Good evening. I'm Robert Fleming, a visual poet from Delaware, and we shall continue with the Stone Soup players. Can I share the screen? Thank you. Tonight, we will do a cold reading of a deleted scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Just a synopsis of the book and movie. When Randall Patrick McMurphy gets transferred for evaluation from a prison farm to a mental institution, he assumes it will be less restrictive. But the nurse Ratched runs the psychiatric ward with an iron fist, keeping her patients cowed through abuse, medication, and electroconvulsive therapy. The battle of wills between the rebellious McMurphy and the inflexible Ratched affects all the ward's patients. The movie was released in 1975, directed by Milos Forman, and won the Academy Award for Best Picture. This is a scene between Nurse Ratched, who is behind the glass where the medication is kept, and Randall Patrick McMurphy. Now, what happens just before the scene starts is Murphy removes his medication from his mouth and puts it into an ashtray. So I'm looking for casting for two people. One person would be the patient Murphy. And in this scene, Murphy is primarily trying to use seduction to get what he wants. So that's your motivation for Murphy. Bill, would you like to be Murphy?
So I'm going to get to make it with Nurse Ratched?
Probably.
Cool.
That's
okay, baby. Let's see. Who do I want to be? Oh, I want John. John would make a great Nurse Ratched. Hey, Johnny, you want to be the nursey poo?
Okay, Bill, I'll be the nursey poo.
Okay, and
Please,
I'll read
neither of you say nursey poo again.
I'll read the stage directions. Nurse Ratched and Murphy before therapy.
Murphy, your pills, ashtray.
Ashtray duty? Ratched pills up my ass.
Points to his ass.
Getting better, soon released.
You gonna miss me? Ratchy, your cap of the real turn on.
Therapy, 15 minutes.
Your cap, a real adjustment.
Dan's adjusts his crotch.
I can only give you powder.
Ratchy, shock me again.
Therapy now.
Thank you. I will be sending
Yay!
the tape to the director who will be doing the remake of Cuckoo's Nest for consideration for inclusion.
And with that, I am terrified. Thank you very much, Mr. Fleming, for your entry, for being the first to break the open mic of this round robin tonight. I'm going to go now to, let's see, who is the Raminator 5000 chosen? Let's go to Mr. Ken Johnson if you're ready, or do you want to skip? Or do you want more time?
Oh, may as well be now. Ugh. Where am I here? Oh, no, I did that wrong. Just this. Anybody been to Martha's Vineyard? I'm guessing that's a no. Okay.
No, it's a yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's where they filmed the movie Jaws also.
That's true.
Martha Stewart actually asked me over to pick grapes with her once.
Cool. Was she on the vineyard then or in Connecticut?
She was in Maine. She has a house
She
in
was
Maine.
in Maine. Okay, that's got everything to do with Martha's Vineyard.
Not the big house. She didn't ask you to the big house, did she, Brian?
It was out behind the big house. She has a little vineyard. She has a whole bunch of grapes, and she
I
calls it.
heard Martha Stewart was named after Martha's Vineyard.
Okay, let me take back the stick here if I can. I was going to say the flying horses are a carousel in Oak Bluffs. So this is a poem about flying horses. We were out looking for dinner after an afternoon as swimmers on an evening in Oak Bluffs in summertime. When we walked by the red building, whose the street music was filling, and we thought on pretty horses we should ride. At the booth, we bought our tickets, stood in line behind white pickets as we watched adults and children spinning by. And when the carousel was done, a lad, the brass ring he had won, a square free ticket so again he could ride. When at last it was our time, up its steps we both of us climbed, and we mounted wooden steeds with glued glass eyes. With horsehair antique manes, no two horses looked the same as the music began spinning on our ride. I always thought this should be set to music. It's very lyric. Mounted on the far side wall was an arm where rings would fall into fingers that would hold them within reach. All were cheap steel or tin, just that one brass ring to win. Then another one replaced it in the breech. As I rode around the rear, there my eyes beheld it clear, but was far too wide to be a wedding ring. My quick fingers looped it fast, confirming hope that we would last, and that future for us it would be helped to bring. Well, that's an awkward line. I'll have to change that later. But when they gave me our free ticket, they made one thing all too explicit, that for you to ride your fare we'd have to buy? Fuck that. Leave you standing while I ride alone? Instead, some future day I yearn, you'll bring my ashes in my urn, or I yours, and we'll ride those flying horses when we die. Well, there you go. Now you've all been to Martha's Vineyard and had your fun on the flying horses.
Far less expensive than I anticipated. Thank you so much. Up next, I'd like to welcome up Mr. Generalissimo Brian Franco. Hope he's
I'm
got another
eating,
Martha Stewart story. Welcome.
I'm eating right now.
Oh, okay. Raminator has unselected Mr. Jerry Brian Franco. Okay, so let's see who can bring up next. Jan Rowe, are you ready?
This is called Foundations. I'm on the way to Black Seed Writers Tuesday morning. Cement mixers are lined up on Dot Ave, Beale Street, and Ashmont T, ready to pour the foundations for new housing of some type. The mixers must keep rolling or cement hardens. Walkout strike suit current about that now. In the late 1990s, my old friend Yvonne, single mom of two, was somehow able to buy 4 acres around Bridgeville or Georgetown, Delaware, and a house kit. The house kit cost about $90,000, included everything you needed to build a house except a foundation. Since Yvonne was a volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, she was ineligible for a house, although she was poor enough. However, there was a Mennonite group that volunteered to build the house. They went around the country building houses. So about that foundation, not included in the kit. See, there were no basements, no cellars on the eastern shore of Maryland and Delaware at that time. It may have changed. They may have basements now. So the volunteers were there to lay the concrete slab because there's no basements. So the weather was really hot. The concrete was drying really fast. Rakes to spread and smooth the concrete were few. Volunteers, though cheerful and seeking to help, could not. An experienced man from a couple fields over declared it the worst concrete slab he had ever seen. So another concrete slab was placed on top. The house was built and is almost paid off. Thank you. I wrote that yesterday morning. I try to write bright stuff for that. That group's half homeless. Okay.
Thank you, Jan. Up next, I'll welcome up, if he's available, Mr. Jeff Taylor. Okay. So Remedy says, fuck that. And we'll bring up Mr. Bill Lewis.
Hi, thank you. Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I muted you by accident. Sorry about that.
And that's why it worked like that. If we hadn't done it that way, it never would have happened. And that is why the world is in such good shape today. So thank you for that, Chadford. And now I should like to read. Why do you put up with me? You can kick me off if you wanted to. Sometimes I like to do my own poetry. Sometimes I assist with others. The Pope admitted we made the whole Jesus thing up. On his visit to the Vatican, the Dalai Lama said the same about Buddha. We sure got a kick out of that one. The same day, my wife confessed, although I find sex with you repulsive, sure beats working full time. It must have been something in the waters. Doctor ridiculed their patients' vaginal itchings. The president called the American public a bunch of whining, self-indulgent morons. Later, I waited at the curb for a gap in the torrent of speeding, distracted metal when a woman I didn't even know brought her green Land Rover to a halt for me to cross. I found a brown paper bag on my neighbor's heirloom tomatoes on my doorstep. I found a brown paper bag of my neighbor's heirloom tomatoes on my doorstep. It was a good day. Thank you, John Wessex. That is a Wessex poem. And now you get a short one of mine. I looked up my old books, and sometimes I just read from them. Arise, ye refuge of the street. Cast off your mantle of defeats. Yes, life is mostly mean and short, but you have the power of retort. You can rise and you can stand and be as good as any man. So know your power, take your part. Now the time for you to start. You have to be strong, you have to care. You must work like a dog. No, it isn't fair. You can sit and complain, you can beg for spare change, but the world will not notice one more wasted lotus. It is your life to lead. So what will you do? Help your friends build a life or get turned into glue? So there it is, my emphatic, we have the power poem, build a better world right now, get out there, woo, 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 a better world is possible, yay!
There you have it. Someone was asking me last week about Stone Soup. I sent her the information, and now Jillian Matthews is here. I'm hoping she might be interested in reading. If so, let us know. You can unmute yourself and start away.
Hi. Oh, can I share screen? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it looks like you. Oh, there you go. Very nice.
this is called Tangerine Dream. When I was a kid in school, there was an orange sweet we ate that had a teaspoon of salt cocoon inside its oval center. The idea was to suck it slowly, melt its hard outer layer, thinning it until the salty part burst open like a ripened seed pod, to shock my taste buds into submission. My senses swinging from one end of the spectrum of candied joy to the opposite end of briny salinity, like I had swum too far from the beach and swallowed a huge gulp of the ocean. The first time I tasted it, egged on by my schoolmates, it was like a power punch to the mouth. A riot of pain blended with pleasure, and I had to scrunch up my face like a constipated golem to the laughter of my circle of watching friends. Precious. Of course, with repeated consumption of those sweets as in any drug, I never got the same high. Most times I just crunched down straight off and chewed up the hard bits while the salt swirled in my mouth, eventually losing its sting like a morning gargle down a sink. Tonight I remember that particular sweet and I thought of you in a tempting, tangible way. This must have been the way Adam may have fondled the forbidden fruit, persuaded by Eve to take the second bite, nervous, yet excited and ever curious. But in this dream, the mythical apple is replaced by this orangey, tangy delight. I imagine unwrapping you from both ends like that sweet of old, shedding you from your translucent plastic skin, putting you inside my wet and warm mouth, and slowly, slowly feeling you unravel from your saccharine outer self, melding with my own moist tongue. The same tongue more known for its dry wit than the slippery salivatory suffusion, as it finds itself going deeper and deeper, stripping layer after layer, until it reaches its salty, acerbic inner core, and you erupt with a final volcanic rush. Then I choke, shaken awake from my stupor, like a sleepwalker blindly tumbling into a swimming pool, a fool and his fantasy separated, leaving both me and my ego cold, cheeks pufferfish bloated, heart throbbing, mouth gasping for air, but mind holding on to that one last sensory memory of that first time when sweetness gave in to the saline dropkick in my orifice, and I was heavenly and hellishly concussed, momentarily gripped in your tangerine goodness, and all around me, everyone is smiling, even laughing while I keel over, suckered by the honey of your breath. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julian. And I think some people might be eating still. Let's go to John Wisik.
If I'm not mistaken, somebody named Julian Matthews had a birthday recently, so everybody should wish him a happy birthday. In my story, a minister who was having a crisis of faith had hired my private eye, Morris Pillbottle, to find Jehovah. And Morris has been interviewing the Middle Eastern gods who used to be, who the Jews used to worship before they became monotheistic. And when we last left off, a bunch of priests kidnapped the private eye. I woke, bound to a chair in a basement illuminated by a naked 40-watt bulb hanging from the ceiling. The Pope emerged from the shadows and stood before me. Sorry to bring you here this way, but we had to act quickly. Worry had wrinkled his forehead and his shoulders bent as if under the weight of heavy responsibilities. You're meddling with dangerous forces, but have the opportunity to rid the world of Beelzebub, or Baal as you call him. He removed a squirt gun from under his white cassock. It's filled with holy water. One drop will destroy him. I'm a detective, not an assassin. If ancient gods return to power, their worshippers will sacrifice children just like the Phoenicians. He scribbled a note on a piece of paper. Here's my personal number. If you help us track down Beelzebub, I'll make it worth your while. He set the squirt gun on a table. You'd better take this along, just in case. Looks like you need a 5-iron, I told Baal. I'd caught up with him on a fairway at the Seven Palms golf course in Florida. He didn't have the devil's horns the Pope had led me to expect. Instead, he was lean and fit with hair the color of a thundercloud. He wore polyester pants, a yellow golf shirt, and tasseled shoes. Iron? Never used the stuff. He motioned to his caddy for a bronze club and hit his ball onto the green. Ha! Take that, Napishtim. A gust of wind sent his opponent's ball into a water trap. As usual, the god won and the human lost. Afterwards, Utnapishtim begged off when I joined Baal for a beer. Things were getting played out in Babylon 3,000 years ago, so I changed my name from Marduk to Baal and moved west. Those were good times, none of the political correctness we have today. Mind telling me about your beef with Jehovah, I asked. Back then, every kingdom had a head god, kind of like sports teams today. Each king would praise his god not only to give himself status, but to protect his kingdom too. I had Ugarit, Jehovah had Israel and Judah, Moloch, Dagon, and Eshemon were in the mix. Chemosh had Moab, Kos had Edom, Melkart had Tyre and Soran. We all had worshippers in each other's kingdoms too. It was live and live until Jehovah made us move. He and I had that showdown in Ahab's court. I could have won if Elijah hadn't spiked my drink with a laxative. After that, Jehovah squeezed us out. He gave us a choice, either get demoted to angels and take a pay cut or retire. I took the latter. What was your deal with child sacrifice? I asked. What's worse, tossing a few kids in a furnace or sacrificing millions in war? I would have protected humanity if you hadn't stopped believing in me. Did you like that COVID pandemic? It was my divine punishment. There will be more to come unless you repent. Thanks for your time. I paid the check and hoped the order of lamb koftas I sent to Baal's table would appease him. Convinced the rich and powerful were all the same, I decided not to ask about Jehovah's whereabouts. The powerful only care about us when we stroke their egos or when we're pawns in one of their schemes. The best policy is to stay away from them. After leaving the clubhouse, I found a familiar figure sitting on my rental car's hood. Get off, I told the Griffin. What are you going to do about it, huh? The Griffin hopped off and danced around on his hind legs with his fists in a guard. What are you going to do, big man? Look, I've had a long day. Yeah, well, too bad. The Griffin punched me in the thigh. Knock it off! I took the squirt gun full of holy water out of my pocket. I'm warning you. Oh, I'm scared. He threw a few more punches. What are you going to do? That's it. I squirted him. Hey, he looked at the spot on his shoulder. I just got this dry cleaned. Yeah, well, what about the fedora your friends ruined? Now I have to wear this stupid trucker cap. You ever hear of a private eye in a trucker cap? I pocketed the squirt gun. Anyway, I'm off the case. What do you mean you're off the case? I don't like you guys. It's not worth it. I quit. Don't you want to try a little? I mean, where's the challenge if you just quit? The Griffin asked as I got into the car. How about if I get you an interview with Mott? He chased after me as I drove away. What about Jehovah's Father L? Don't you want to meet him? When I got back to my hotel, I placed a call, not to the Vatican, but to the minister in Sweden. Reverend Bergman, it's Pill Bottle. I found him. He's real busy with the famine in Sudan. Anyway, he said you're doing a great job and to keep up the good work.
All will be revealed. Thank you, John. Before I ask Carol if she wants to go, I'm going to segue over to a musical interlude courtesy of Mr. Ethan Mackler, who will help along with Jeff Taylor. Had a great time at the Controverse open mic that took place in, I believe, Malden this past Monday. Ethan, if you're ready. Seriously, no one's ready? Okay, is there anyone who's not eating, is at work, or, oh, here he goes.
Yeah, Ethan.
Nicely done. Oh, Jeff, does that mean you're ready?
Yeah, I can be next if you
All
want me to
right.
be next.
I think one person's still eating. I'm not sure about Carol, so you're the best you're the best applicant we have right now.
All right, that's true. A lot of cases. Yeah, back to my former job. So in the news right now is voting, and Taylor Swift are both in the news right now. So I thought it'd be a good time to bring out this catfish poem of mine that you could find in written form at Oddball Magazine if you feel so inclined. My cat says voting is a sucker's game. I bought him a collar on Etsy with the words, I voted embroidered on it, but I haven't made him wear it. I hold the wearable statement awkwardly close to his face, whispering possibilities. He looks at me like I've wasted my breath, not having believed in anything since being catfished by Taylor Swift. Every night for nearly a year, the pop star mimicked our neighbor Cat's ritual until T Swift's love dance was revealed to be a nefarious ruse concocted to win a bet she had made with Ariana Grande. It's been zero fucks and Sex Pistols ever since coming ass to mouth with the fact that rich people take their niche pastimes far too seriously. When I asked my cat if he had made a plan to vote, he said he was going to be writing in his own name. Thank you. And yes, Robert, I do believe that T Swift should be the next press secretary. That would be great. I would go for that. I was hoping to see Generalissimo Brian Franco last night. I was in his neck of the woods, well, but virtually at Port Veritas, seeing Bobby Crawford, former Cantab Slam champion, who was in Maine doing a feature.
Very cool. Is Generalissimo Brian Franco able to read now?
Yeah, Generalissimo went out to dinner with friends last night and had a rare social occasion. So
I'm glad you were able to socialize.
I am too. So I'll just read this piece, which is, where is it? There it is. The most important strings are born from hearts. As a young ukulele, I believed I could grow up to be a 12-string classical guitar. I longed to be played overlooking the river Nervion in the courtyard at the Guggenheim in Bilbao, Spain. As a teenager, I decided I could be a six-stringer owned by a folk singer who dabbles in the blues. I had heard how good it feels when a blues singer slides a metal tube over his finger and makes your strings orgasm. But alas, I never experienced a growth spurt. My owner, who only played me for his family in Hawaii, gave me to his surfer son, who took me with him as he surfed his way around the globe. The tattooed boy tattooed me with stickers from everywhere he surfed, as if the stickers were stamps on my passport. Then one day he got hurt and could no longer surf. He spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. He traveled the world with me in his hands as he sang songs that were born of the waves he had ridden. He never bought another uke or guitar with more strings. He said to do so would be to abandon his father's soul that existed in my frets. Though he fell in love more than once, he never married. He believed his mission in life was to spread the love and humanity he inherited from his father. When I was a boy, I was a gift to a teenage boy who listened to folk and blues and Spanish classical guitar music. Though he would play me and sing to girls he thought he loved and to his wife and child, I always thought he longed for more strings, but he never replaced me. And when he taught his boy how to play me, he said I was his prized possession and told his boy to never take me for granted. While I traveled the world with him, he often talked to me as if I were his dad. He cried over many broken hearts while strumming me. He never took me for granted, just like his dad never did. And now I live in a glass case in the Smithsonian, having lived a truly wonderful life. Happy to have known I never needed more strings to make beautiful music. Thank you.
Hooray. Thank you, Generalissimo, sir. And now I'm going to take a second to, whoops. And I'm going to see if Carol Weston would like to read with us tonight. And because she hasn't said anything, I'm going to assume that she's not reading tonight. We'll come back just in case. You are muted. So let us now go to the last person in this first round of the round robin. Check out his poem this coming Thursday morning at oddballmagazine.com. It's all one thing. Let's welcome up Mr. James Van Looy.
Thank you. So I have a poem here which is called Black Seed Writers, August 1st, 2023. So this is from the writing group that I go to on Tuesdays from 9:30 to about 11 o'clock, where all these people come and just sit there together and write. Young guy comes up and plunks himself down with a blanket in his lap and cigarette in his hand. Very young, without a shirt, stretches his arm out across the table and hunkers down, looking up just to see if I'm looking at him. But I continue to write, even though I'm not sure what he will do, until one of the workers comes over, and as Eric keeps making comments about the planets, Uranus, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars, of course saying that we, that is us, could be like Mars once was. And it's all complete prophecy as they arrange to get the new member here a shirt and socks. And yes, large underwear. And my wife shows up, and Eric calls her Dale, which he says is okay since I often say she looks like Dale Evans, who Eric doesn't know until she says of Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. And Happy Trails to You, which got sung each week. This wonderful duet of Dale's song lyrics from another time when really, who cares about the stormy weather as long as we're all here together. And here's the song to go with that. It's in Dutch. And it's actually the guy just passed. His name is Father Abraham. Sings this song. Die avondzon valt over straten en pleinen, de gartenzon zacht in de stad. En mensen die mogen en huizen verwijnen, ze hebben het dag weer gehad. De nieuwe reclame dik niet was lang rammen, het moet brengen zachtjes op straat. De zat like a storm en dan klinkt der muziek uit en door nog weit open staat. Daar in de kleine café aan de haven. Daar zijn de mensen gelijk en tevreden. Daar in de kleine café aan de haven. Daar telt je geld te wie je bent niet meer mee. De talkers van kapper, dat klinkt er geen klapper. De voetbalclub hangt aan de muur. De trakkers die maakt meer lawaai dan de jukebox en Pilsie, dat is er niet deur. En mens is daar mens, rijk gefarmd is daar warm, geen monsieur, madame, what they say. Maar het glas is gespoeld en het filters de water, ja, het is daar een heel good café. Down in the kleine cafe on the Haven. Daar zijn de mensen gelijk en tevreden. Daar in de kleine café aan de haven. Daar telt je geld of je bent niet meer mee. The wereldproblemen die trying tussen twee glassen bier opgelost voor altijd. Op de rand van een bierveltje staat er je rekening of je staat in het krijt. Het enige wat je aan eten kan krijgen, dit is er een harde koekij. De mensen die zijn er gelukkig voor, ja, de mensen die zijn er nog blij. Daar in de kleine café aan de haven. Daar zijn de mensen gelijk en tevreden. Daar in de kleine café aan de haven. Daar telt je geld of wie je bent niet meer mee. And of course, that basically is in the small cafe on the harbor. Therein are all equal and at peace. There in the small cafe on the haven, you're is worth a lot more than just your money. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Looks like we got one more round to go. Thanks to everyone who read the first round. Looks like we lost one guy. Julian, maybe he'll come back, but we'll proceed with the original list, such as it is, such as it remains. Let's go first with Mr. Robert Fleming, who should have his permissions to share screen.
Thank you.
Still there.
So I'm gonna do another dialogue, and one of the key characters in the dialogue is the forest, and the other is an interviewer. Is Jan there? I'm wondering whether she would want to be the interviewer. So Jan, you need to unmute so you could be the interviewer. Okay, and then who would like to be the forest? Jeff will be the forest. So will you unmute Jeff? Okay, so Jan, you are the I for the interviewer.
Right, right.
Interview with the forest.
How did you get your name?
Webster named me.
Well, now, why do trees gather?
To make more trees.
Well, now, when was the first forest?
Trees have no memory.
Well, where does the forest start?
Seeds on the wind.
What do you do for fun?
Gossip about bushes.
Who are trees?
God lookups.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Ken Johnson, if you're up, it's your turn, if you so choose.
Sure. Now, this one is a little more difficult. I've been having trouble getting the voice right, but I'm going to do it anyway because I don't have anything else at the moment ready. So I call this An Odd Duck and it's dedicated to a friend of mine I knew back when I was a Zen student called Te Yaktan. Te meaning monk, Yaktan being his name. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Others, they meet someone, they take from someone. Very bad. His accent was thick, English being a second language, learned not from school, but from being talking to, as he'd say. Spoke slow, rolling his eye up, searching for the next word. Every S, saying T was T. And I remember him with that teapot sitting on the steps behind Doshinji Monastery, on those steps arranged like a U in a slate stone amphitheater. I paid money for it. My teacher, he was mad at me. Why you pay so much for a tea set? But I tell him I like it. And he tells me, okay, so you keep. Then he poured the tea, a greenish yellow water that he poured by tipping the spout of the spout into the cup, then raising the pot higher and higher, making the stream form into droplets like when I was a Boy Scout and we were able to pee in the stream. There is a legend in the Vietnamese American culture, especially with those who came after the fall of Saigon, their diaspora, of a container filled with little yellow ducks, cute little faces made for soapy bathtub hands that fell off a container ship and broke open. Little ducks in the sea all about. Some even washed up the Bering Sea, crossed eastwards the Arctic Ocean, and even some arrived around on our East United shores. After the men with guns put us on the boats out from Vietnam, maybe to never no land. Swelling stomachs on the sea waves. We had no food. We had no water. We drift, float, no shore to land. Out many days, something peck. Peck, peck, peck. Peck, 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 peck. On the boat. Side of the boat, I looks. Yellow, smiley, tiny face. Persistent. Peck, peck, peck on the sea. It was no food. There was no water. I take shit in. When I come to America and the duck, he comes with me. Take the time. He helps me. He say, I come here, and Buddhist, this Sangha, they take me, and I come here with the duck. Days, once I stay, and one day, I takes the duck down to river. I says to duck, okay, duck, we in America now. You be free. Free, duck, free. And he shoot his hands like this. And I let him go in the river. Now he free. More tea? I remember thinking I didn't need any, and I felt I might have to pee too, but I didn't want to leave him. So I said nothing, and he poured again. There you go. That's an odd duck.
Thank you, Ken. Up next, if we can keep as much of the original order going as possible, is Jan Rowe.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. Sometimes in that other writing group, the Black Seed Writers, we get prompts. So the one yesterday was many good poets are really essayists who write very short essays by some guy, Nicholson Baker. So I started to write this. Hoisted on his own petard, a lowly worker got a job at the IRS just to release what the rich get away with. So Trump's appointed head of the IRS, Charles Rettig, Rettittig, he co-owns a condo with Trump in Hawaii. So he would only allow one IRS worker to work on Trump's complicated international taxes. However, this lowly worker got in there and released a bunch of taxes. So that's why I called it Hoisted on His Own Petard. That was just a rough draft. Thank you.
Okay.
Keep them coming, Jan. And up next, the very quiet Bill Lewis.
Oh, thank you, Chadford. I'm so happy. And now you've said quiet, Bill Lewis. That's how am I going to pull that off? I was not planning to be quiet. It's a little bit late, but oh well. Once again, from years and years ago, the fact that I have the same topics on the same poems repeatedly is somewhat disconcerting to me. We were supposed to get better, weren't we? They promised us that we would be better by now. Free stuff, give it to me. Why should I work for stuff that is free? Free stuff, why should I work? As long as I got free stuff, I can just shirk. Jobs are for losers, like nerds and like geeks, like illegal migrants who are desperate and weak. I'll put up a tent wherever I want, and you cannot stop me. I'll laugh and I'll taunt. Give me free money, give me free food, give me free health care, or I'll be rude. I didn't ask to be born into this life. It's tough and it's hard. It's so full of strife. So fuck all you middle-class, working-class fools. It's us on the streets who totally rules.
Genuinely think that's your first F-bomb, Bill. we shall mark history today. With Julian out, I think we're back with the next chapter in John Wessex tale.
Well, that was actually the end of the tale, to tell you the truth.
I was hoping for an epilogue, but do you have anything else quick?
Sure. Bought some condoms today to replace the unopened box that sat in my drawer for 16 years. The plastic storage card holds things I don't use but can't bear to toss out. Graph paper, dried magic markers, 2-cent stamps, and greeting cards from charities. 46 years ago, I gave Nancy a ride when I moved east, all my possessions in a Chevy hatchback in my hand on her thigh as we drove the Pennsylvania Turnpike. She wouldn't let me use a condom and accused me of thinking her unclean, but I didn't want to start graduate school dripping itchy pus. We dry humped on my modular sofa, my fingers slipping into silky panties. Odd how often I slept with a sexy adventuress and woke next to a cat owner with no common interests. Those married guys, their jaws clenched in exasperation with allergies and litter boxes, must feel the same. My new condoms will remain unopened, probably the last I'll ever buy.
Thank you, John. And it looks like we have another musical spot for Ethan if he wishes to play. Thank you, Ethan. And now as I'm checking my computer power, I'm going to segue over to Mr. Jeff Taylor if he wants to read again.
Sure, I'll read another poem, but I'm not going to read my own poem. I'm going to read another poet's poem. This is a poem by Tanya Larkin, and you can get it in placesjournal.org. And it is it's called Meander Map of the Lower Mystic. Places Journal, I guess they're doing like map poems that are about a certain geographic place. A river so slow you can practically step in the same spot twice. Its will is faint, having been shackled and placed elsewhere again and again. Same tankers, same quays, running with the same blood. Penned in by highways, strip malls, mixed-use development, confused by a dam. It can't remember where it wanted to flow. It's like a runt crowded out at the teat. It nuzzles the fence at the back of the petting zoo, never coming when called. In our infinite self-regard, we think it's like us, an animal hurt into thought. It thinks they choke me with invasives, knotweed, mute swans, water chestnuts mistaken for lilies. They throw things inside me, styrofoam cups, plastic bags, plastic forks, rotten shoes, empty pens, broken pens. Shit. But it doesn't complain. Winter comes, it heals over with ice. Spring comes and it swells with relative health. Understand that when I call it, I give it the highest designation. A baby is born and a mother begins her long mourning. When pressed to give the baby a name, what will it answer to? And yet she knows any name will narrow its being. The Massachusetts, the Nipmuc, the Pawtucket called it Missatuck, Great Tidal River, and so it's been mistaken, mistook, and mistaken. There's a boy on its banks crying out in frustration. He drags the river with an enormous magnet, pulling up a shopping cart he is too small to heave out onto its shore. There's a woman on a bench dragging her thoughts, pulling them out one by one to look at them as one might examine one's own scars. The woman gets up and approaches the boy, helps him detach the magnet from the wheel of the shopping cart. It's okay to let the shopping cart go, she says. There will be other rivers. And that was by Tanya Larkin. I took a poetry class that was taught by Tanya Larkin when I was in college for audio production.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jeff. And looks like a couple of people left. Looks like Carol got off the line. Let's see who we have next. Oh, a couple left. Mr. Generalissimo Franco, would you like to tag in?
Sure, thank you. This is called You Are More Than Everything. I never thought of you as a badass. You were just Mimo. Well, you were never just Mimo. When you were born in Bodrum, Turkey, your given name was Mazel Tov, good luck in Hebrew. It's assumed you were around 6 when you immigrated, since no birth certificate or passport existed. You and my grandfather were arranged before the boat left. You married after you turned 18. On your very first day of school, the teacher asked for your name. Another Jewish girl told you the teacher would never say your name correctly. She said you can use my name, Matilda, which became your legal name. But everyone always called you Mazel Tov. except your closest friends who sometimes called you Hazel. One day when they were at your place playing Mahjong, the 1960s TV show Hazel was on in the background. You said, "I wish my name sounded more American like Hazel." And unlike the other women in your circle who were from Turkey, Rhodes, Italy, and Egypt, who spoke virtually perfect English, your English was always a bit broken. At your funeral, the rabbi mentioned that you were a single mother. I never thought of you as a single mother. Single mothers to me were either divorced women or women who had unplanned pregnancies. My grandfather died when you were both in your 40s. My father and uncle were 5 and 12 at the time. You were a single mother. You were a tough disciplinarian. You raised disciplined, smart, ambitious, successful sons. They both served in the military before college and accessed tuition through the GI Bill. I never thought of you as poor. Some people would say your small, cramped home you and your sons lived in after your husband's death wasn't much, but it was everything to me and my brothers. I never saw it as small even when we moved from city to city into homes that were at least 3 or 4 times larger. You were more than Mima. You were more than Mazel Tov. You were more than a single mother. You were more than everything you were. You were a badass. Everyone.
Nice one. Thank you, Brian. And looks like closing us out for the night. Glad to have him back again. Take us back to the old Dutch home, Mr. James Van Looy.
Okay. So this is a poem called Three Pennies, and it's written for the I Ching reading called Preponderance of the Great. It's number 28. Three pennies. The very first time I threw those 3 flashing coins, they fell a broken line at the beginning and the top, and 4 solid lines between, to become the dreaded I Ching reading Preponderance of the Great. The ridgepole sags to the breaking point. And sure enough, within days, there was a fatal confrontation with my old mentor, Arthur, when I told him his drinking and smoking were contributing to his wife's impending death of rheumatoid arthritis. And he, so drunk and enraged by my indeed impudent and certainly naive deployment of what turned out to be the truth, came back in the middle of the night to threaten to go to the dean and the police about our marijuana use. No small chump change in those days when the drug laws were regularly being used to put people we knew away, part of the Nixon years' reign of political terror. So we ended packing up everything we owned. In the back of a U-Haul truck, it was still possible to rent one without a credit card in those days. And we absconded in the middle of the night for Ohio, where my mate and eventual first wife had an Uncle Patsy, who was still owed a favor by the mob. From his days in the Cleveland Rackets, working the slot machines. And he actually got me a job, first temporarily at the hot dog shop, and then at GM's new Vega plant, working on the line, spot welding. One of the best paying jobs I ever got laid off from. I was sick of college at the time anyway. And my son was conceived there in Ohio, so just perhaps, maybe, it's not so terrible bad that sometimes that old ridgepole does collapse. But to this day, when I see those 3 pennies sitting on the shelf by the edge of the bed, I shudder to remember Preponderance of the Great. I came upon a child of God, and I was walking along the road, and I asked him, "Where are you going?" And this he told me, "I'm going down to Yasgur's farm. I'm going to join in a rock and roll band. I'm going to camp out on the land. I'm going to try and get my soul free. We are stardust. We are golden. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden." Then can I walk beside you? I've come here to lose the smog. I feel to be a cog in something turning. Maybe it's the time of year, or maybe it's the time of man. I don't know who I am, but you know, life is for learning. I are stardust, we are golden, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. By the time we got to Woodstock, we were 500,000 strong, and everywhere there was song and celebration. And I dreamed I saw the bombers riding shotgun in the sky, and they were turning into butterflies above the nation. We are stardust, we are golden, billion-year-old carbon caught in the devil's bargain. And we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. Back to the garden.
Thank you very much, James. And thanks to everyone who came out tonight. It was fantastic. And tomorrow, next week, we will have the live feature of Margaret Young. And 2 weeks from now, we will have the live feature of Jamelia Van Dyke Bailey. More information on Jamelia will be going up on the Stone Soup website later tonight or tomorrow. And hopefully we'll be able to announce more features coming up. And that's all I got for right now. So we're going to do a quick wave. And we will see you next time. I appreciate everyone coming out tonight. And have yourselves an excellent evening. The show's over. See you next time. Toodaloo, everybody.